So it took me a while to recognize that, like, oh, okay, no, I will never win this game of trying to fit in. I can never do that. And it was actually like hurting myself. It was detrimental to my personal well-being and my personal growth. So once I started to recognize that, like, okay, no, I'm bringing something really valuable to the table because I have a different perspective. I ask different questions. I come at things from a different way. And that is my superpower. That is my strength. And leaning into that then led me to be able to get into different rooms and have different types of conversations.
Hey friends, welcome to Right Off Track, your favorite entrepreneurial resource where we dive into the mindset, strategy, and purpose of entrepreneurs around the world who are sharing their real stories and insights with you. I believe that we all have a unique purpose in life, and that embracing our unique and special journey will help uncover that. If this helps you on your journey, I so welcome your support as we grow and improve this channel. Join us, subscribe. I promise you, I'm fully dedicated to making this work better every step of the way. So share your feedback, subscribe, share with a friend, and let's go on this adventure together right off track. Enjoy this episode.
Going off track is taking a chance on yourself.
Following your pulse of curiosity.
It's making your own decisions.
The most wonderful adventure.
Hey friends, I'm Anya Smith and so excited for this episode. Today we're joined by Neisha Tweed. She's not just an expert in creative marketing, but a pioneer in weaving inclusivity into the fabric of the industry. Neisha's journey is a masterclass in turning passion into purpose, which has led her to launch a consultancy that's redefining creativity and leadership. Today she's here to share her unique insight and the powerful impact of authenticity in business. So let's dive in and welcome Neisha. Excited to have you here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Nice to see you, Anya.
It's such a pleasure. And just for a little bit of context, we were both at Meta, and I saw, I think, your layoff notice, which happened a little bit after mine or roughly the same time. And I was like, I need to connect with you because you had so much passion, so much spark. You were in the DUI space, which I've always been fascinated about. And I want to know, like, where are you taking all of that on your journey now beyond Meta?
Such a good question. And I'm glad that we waited till now to answer that question because I would not have had this answer 6 months ago, 7 months ago, which is good. You know, I took some time off. I took a lot of quality time to focus on my family and deal with a lot of stuff there, which was really what was needed. And now I recognize how much the work that I was doing at Meta was unique and needed. So this idea of being this person that is a mix of creative, having had experience as a creative director, working with hundreds and hundreds of brands, to then also having DEI background and work as a practitioner in that space, I now am looking at how do I help support brands, agencies, and companies who are thinking about inclusive culture, inclusive content, inclusive creativity on a whole, and then how do they bridge those gaps? So I'm able to be a bestie to creative types and help them with the inclusion side of things. I'm able to be a BFF to DEI types and help them with the creative side of things. And then in between, I'm able to help the employees, no matter what their level, figure out whether it's, you know, getting the support that they need from a cultural competency level or from a leadership standpoint, from an inclusive leader perspective.
I love that. Very valuable mix. And DUI is a popular word. Diversity is something we hear about. We hear it's important, but oftentimes it becomes kind of like this popular world and people don't quite know what it really means. And sometimes they feel like it's kind of just, you know, a sell word, but people aren't really putting in the effort. So in your experience, like, what are the common things people are doing wrong in diversity and maybe trends that you are excited to bring forward in the right way?
What people are doing wrong. I think a lot of times people are looking at a right way versus a wrong way to do things. I think that there's an issue with the definition of words and the fact that we don't necessarily understand what the words mean, or we all have different meaning assigned to the words. So when we get into a room, I think that we all want to do the best work possible. I think that we all want to feel like we can add value to the group that we're in, the business that we're working in, whatever. And I think we all want to feel valued.
Right.
And that's, like, to me, the basic tenets of DEI. But when you start talking about diversity, people hear Black and brown, right? And so whatever feelings they have about that come up, or they themselves feel like, oh, I'm left out, Whereas now, like, that's not what we're talking about, right? And when we talk about equity, most people don't even know what that means at all. So I'm not even going to talk
Right.
about that right now. But inclusion, we all
Yeah.
get that, right? We all
Right.
understand that. We all want that. We all want to go someplace and feel like, oh, I belong here. I can be here. I have something to add here. And so my focus is actually helping people get down to some of these deeper personal levels and understandings of what these things mean and what these things look like in
Yeah.
order for us to see progress. I'm not about changing hearts and minds. I don't care if you, at the end of the day, um, are going to like sign a petition for some cause that is going to benefit me and my people. You know what I mean? Like, that's good and great or whatever. But at the end of the day, I want us to be able to sit in a room
Yeah.
and work towards a greater good that is going to affect society, affect business, affect culture. And in order for us to do that, we have to find some commonalities. We have to find some common language, and we need to find a common goal. And that's just like part of the creative process. And that is part of storytelling. And that's something that I'm really good at.
One thing you mentioned is inclusion. And one challenging thing on that topic I see right now, especially in a lot of big corporations, is how to deal with the fallout from layoffs. Obviously, I'm biased because this has personally faced me, but it's hard to see, the sense like, oh, but we're all, inclusive, we have equity, we're diverse. When you remember how you were laid off and how those programs were cut very initially, like that was not a priority. So how do corporations, how do entrepreneurs, how do people move forward with like this kind of bad taste in people's mouths around like, oh, when it really mattered, that didn't seem to be a priority?
Whew. That's a really good question, Anya. And I can't speak for any of these businesses. I can tell you that for myself, right, I remember somebody asking me if I felt that I should switch the type of work that I was doing, if I should go back to being purely a creative director or anything like that. And I said, no, I know I'm doing the right thing. And I know that I'm in the right space, and I know the value that I bring. I know now I might not need to call it what I was calling it, right? Because again, I'm very much entrenched in this advertising space, and I understand positioning, right? I understand the difference with like, okay, when you call something a diet drink versus a fat-free or a healthy drink, right? So I just need to reposition myself. And I think a lot of companies actually need to just start thinking about, not do we bring these people back or do we build back up these departments or whatnot, but how do we integrate this into everything that we're doing so that it is not an extra thing that can't be cut.
I love that. And then as we look ahead also on the bright side, before this, you mentioned that there are going to be like 5 generations of employees in the workplace that you brought to mind. And why is it so important then to utilize skill sets like yours to adapt to this very unique environment?
So when I'm a millennial, and I remember when I started in the workplace, there was this, millennials are so weird. I don't know how to work with them. What are we gonna do? This is crazy, all this stuff, right? And then even back then I started at Ogilvy, and Ogilvy had like been fined by the Human Rights Commission for not the treatment for Black employees, the payments, like all of this type of stuff, right? And it's interesting because so much of that has not changed. As much as there's been programs and initiatives and all this stuff, there's still the imbalance when it comes to multicultural employees, and there's still the imbalance when it comes to younger employees and different generations. Here's the thing. We are coming to the place now where in 2030, 2045, we're going to be looking at a majority multicultural generation that's going to be joining the workplace, that's going to be the majority of a vast majority of like the buying population. And before, I think we could say like, oh, let's get these people to assimilate. I mean, shoot, I assimilated, right? I figured out how to make it work. I figured out, and unfortunately had to shift and change so much of myself in order to fit into an environment that was not made for me. But what's happening with this new generation is they're like, nope, don't want that, not going to do it. We will opt out. We will not buy your products. We will not shop at your place. We will not work in your company. So then what? Something else has to change, right? And so therefore we need to look at, okay, from an organizational standpoint, what do you need to change? From a business standpoint, what do you need to change? And then from a creative standpoint, how do you change the content, the campaigns, honestly, for some people, the products and the services that you order to be able to fit and make sense for this generation? And one thing I want to add is that we often think that, like, oh, I don't want to have to change for these people. And I'm using these people very specifically.
Right.
But the thing is, when you make things better for a small group that is less fortunate, like when you think about the most marginalized group and you make things better for them, it's actually better for everyone.
Right.
So these changes that corporations are going to have to make and companies and brands are going to have to make in order to make things better, more equitable, more inclusive, more thoughtful, more applicable, more interesting to this younger generation is actually going to make things better for every generation. So
And how do we?
hopefully-
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
go ahead. I was just saying, hopefully they could see that.
And how do we go about that? Because I think this is not just marketing or ads. Anytime you want to share an idea, even if it's just with a coworker, anytime you want to sell a product, sell a message, sell a service, if you are in corporate or an entrepreneur, you have to be selling it to someone. So there's an element of understanding that individual, that that need. What advice do you have if from a diversity lens or just from a creativity lens? Like, how do you take the time, create a strategy, understanding the needs of others, so you can present your idea more effectively?
I love that question because it's the answer. Like, you have to understand the needs of others, right? I find that one thing that brought me a lot of success in my role at Meta as global head of inclusive content was looking at, well, what do you need? Right? Again, like I was not necessarily looking for, oh, I need to convince you to care about this thing. I just need to convince you to do the work. And so what do you need? So some people, it was like, okay, if it's about their bonus and them being able to get the review that they needed, so they needed to work on these projects, then boom, the work was still getting done, right? For some people, it was, I wanted the opportunity to lead something. So here you go. Here's that opportunity right there. For others, it was like, I want to do something that is good for the world, for people. So boom, here's something for you. I think that a lot of times, not just leaders, but in general, people are not listening to what folks actually want. They're not asking the right questions. They're not listening to the answers. And thus they're just like, okay, well, this is what we need to do. This is the North Star. Let's go figure it out. And we need to spend a little bit more time understanding, well, what do you need? What is your motivation? What are the barriers that you have? And then how can I help you overcome those to get to a place that you feel like, at the end of the day, if this is what you want me to do, I'll do it because I'm getting what I want as well.
Right. The synergy of those. Earlier you mentioned about the need to change of an environment. And I can't relate because I know every single person is going to be different, and I have my privilege too that I want to recognize. But I felt like after reflecting on my time at Meta for 7 years that I was limiting myself in my head. I was thinking, hey, I need to be more like my manager. I need to be more professional. I need to tone this energy down a bit so I fit in. And that goes directly against my authenticity. And I realized now, being in this path, that actually leaning into more of myself and not limiting that is what expands my potential, right? My perception of limits from being internal to external was really changed because of this opportunity. But for people, in corporate, outside corporate, what advice would you have them about being authentic and maybe on the receiving end to receive people's authentic side versus like wanting them to be something different?
Oh, I love that question, first of all. And I love that for you. I love that you recognize that you didn't need to be a mini manager, right? And I think for a while, because I felt that too, where I was just like, oh, okay, in order for me to be successful, I need to be different. I need to be more like the people that I saw in front of me. And that's part of the problem already, is that if the leaders are only one type of person, you'll never get new types of people. Right? Because everybody's always just going to kind of like want to fall in the line. And there were situations where I actually had a manager one time say that, oh, he loved my male art director partner because he reminded him of himself when he was younger.
Right.
And I'm like, cool story, bro, but I'm right here. So I'm like, okay, so then do I need to be a white man in order to get the same level of understanding and acceptance that this dude is getting? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's no way I can remind this dude of himself when he was younger.
Right.
It's impossible for me. So it took me a while to recognize that, like, oh, okay, no, I will never win this game of trying to fit in. I can never do that. And it was actually like hurting myself. It was detrimental to my personal well-being and my personal growth. So once I started to recognize that, like, okay, no, I'm bringing something really valuable to the table because I have a different perspective. I ask different questions. I come at things from a different way. And that is my superpower. That is my strength. And leaning into that then led me to be able to get into different rooms and have different types of conversations. I think when you recognize that your voice and your story, your perspective has value, and you can connect that back to what is outside of your organization, because it's easy to be within the walls and say, well, everybody is like this. But the minute you look outside and you're like, but they're not like this.
Yeah.
The real world isn't like this. I mean, even when I talk to clients and I'm like, well, the people on Instagram aren't like that, right? This is your audience is this is what they're saying. This is what they want. This is what they're doing. Then all of a sudden it becomes a different conversation, right?
Yeah.
So you being able to articulate that I have a different perspective, and not that it's better, but it's different and it's valuable as well. So hear me out actually makes the biggest difference. And then you being able to connect it back to, okay, wait, what do y'all really want at the end of the day?
Right.
You want to sell more widgets? You want more people to come to your place? You want whatever it is? Then let me show you how to get people like me. Or more importantly, let me show you how to get people that aren't like you.
Yeah. I love that.
That was, I think, the most important thing for me to recognize and to kind of unpack, where it was just like, also, especially because I stopped thinking about it as a me versus them and an us versus them. So I approach situations where I'm not like, oh, as a woman, oh, as a Black person, oh, as an immigrant. Those are all identities that I have, but I'm not approaching anything from me. I'm approaching it from anybody who is an other, anybody who is not whatever this situation is, whatever the dominant group is. Let me show you how things are different for them. And are we thinking about them? Are we accounting for them? Are we creating space for them? Right? Because I tell people all the time, I used to tell my team, we talk about building diverse teams, but if I build a diverse team that has me and my old colleague Brittany in it, who we both went to college in Florida, we both went to Creative Circus, we both did similar programs even after college. And granted, like, you know, we've got years different experience, and she's an art director type, I'm a copywriter type. That's not a diverse team. We are too similar, right? For it to be different perspectives coming to the table. So I think once people start looking at it that way, where it's just like, oh, what are the different people that we need in this room? What are the different voices that we need represented or thought about or whatever? Then it suddenly becomes a different conversation to like it being about me in particular or you in particular, and how, I don't know, how we're different, right?
Yeah. What it makes me think of is this element of like, we like to be comfortable. We want to be diverse, but we also want to be comfortable. Like, oh, I can handle a certain level of diversity as long as it does not make me uncomfortable and cause friction. Right? So it's like, oh, I'm diverse enough.
Inconvenience.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you know what I'm not there yet. You know, I think we're all learning all the time, and then we have to catch ourselves and be like, oh, never let your guard down around this. But one thing I realized recently as an entrepreneur is that I was so fixated on like, how many clicks am I making? Like on me, like what is my progress from what I am doing versus like, how am I best helping my audience?
Yes.
You know, like how am I actually creating something that actually matters and helps them versus like, oh, I'm just going to put this out. And I don't have to say like I'm figuring it out, but that focus shifts away this energy and this pressure from yourself and actually helps you be a better service to others and ultimately helps you. So I learned that there's like this closed loop that isn't working for us when we're always looking out for ourselves and worrying about being uncomfortable and having challenging conversations that challenge our conventions because it's uncomfortable, because we're so us focused, versus if we look outwards and be like, well, if it's really about helping others, then challenging my conventions is fine because it's not about me being right. It's about like, what can I do best for other people? And ultimately, we're serving the same goal.
I love that. I love that so much. I actually think that was one of the things that I learned when I joined Meta Creative Shop. Having been in advertising before, it was always like, what does the client want? And then what do I need for my book? That was like always the focus of like, how do I make sure the client gets what they're asking for, but how do I make it be the best thing for me and my career? And then when I suddenly came to this other side where it was just like, wait, what do people want? What are people on the platform asking for? What are they doing? And like having to look at briefs completely differently now. And instead of being like, okay, yes, you have a business challenge, you have a business objective, but what's the cultural challenge? What the people challenge? Like, how are we thinking about that? Then that shift is like, of course. Yeah, I do have to have a deeper meaning and expectations. And I think that's honestly the way that I've thought about things as well. Like, how do I make an experience better for other people? I had so many difficult situations happen in my career, especially when I first started off, and so many things that were hard, unnecessarily hard, and unfair, and unnecessarily unfair. And I remember at one point in time being like, oh, it doesn't need to be this hard. And it's not just hard for me. And I think the minute I recognize that, like, oh no, I'm not special here. They're not just like, well, we got Neisha on our list, so we're about to F her up. No, the whole system is effed up. And I'm just happening to be, the one experiencing that right now. So my perspective shifted to like, how do I fix this so that no one else has to go through this? How do I figure out what the base issue is in this organization, in this structure, in this team, whatever? Even in this process, in this interview process, for instance, that then I can say, let's fix that so that no one else, nobody that looks like me or doesn't look like me has to go through this again.
Beautiful. And so I was switching topics, but I was just thinking, here we are, we have you as an ad, also creative genius, somebody with a lot of knowledge in that space. Do you mind if I also ask about that expertise? And somebody like me, who's a new entrepreneur, who is getting their hands dirty in ads, learning so much the hard way. Do you have any advice? Like, what do you prioritize? And maybe to make it a little bit more concise, like for people who may be starting out, people who don't have an immense budget, where they're like, oh, I can spend, all this money to test, that's fine. If somebody's starting out for a limited budget, who's just maybe wanting to create the best content they have, but they're new, or maybe an entrepreneur without a team, what advice would you give them about approaching content in a certain way?
Such a good question. I think the two things I will always say is, one, do some research. You have to look out and be like, okay, what are the trends out there? What are other people doing? What's working? What's popular? I teach a social media class at Miami Ad School, and one assignment I give the students every week, they have to come back with a social media trend, and they have to say, what is the value to people? What is the value to brands? And like being able to look at that and to see, oh, okay, girl math is fun. That's what everybody's talking about. But what does that actually mean? What does that actually have to do with anything? And then how do we take that and extrapolate it and be able to use maybe not even the exact idea, maybe it's the framework, maybe it's the approach, maybe it's the, whatever it is, right? How do you then apply that to something different? So the first thing is, I think, going out there, doing your research, seeing what other people are doing, seeing what's working, and looking at like, okay, what do I have that can add to that? Or how am I different to that? Or anything like that. And then the second thing, which I think people lose sight of, is the storytelling and the authentic storytelling. I recently watched a video of you actually talking about how, and I don't want to misquote you, but you were talking about how you believe in yourself in a way that you have never before. Like this path that you've taken as an entrepreneur, and how like you're betting on yourself and you're doing things and in places and all this stuff that you had never thought about and never knew you could do. I felt that so deeply because I've experienced that. And that was you being authentic and honest and telling your story. that's like money. Chef's kiss, perfect, right? So, because I think sometimes people are like, oh, I want to be this persona and I want to present my story this way and I need it to be polished and I need it to do X, Y, Z or whatever. And it's just like, no, people just want you to be you, and people want to understand the reality of what it is.
Right.
I can't remember what the stat is, and I'm actually really terrible with stats, but there was something around small businesses in particular, and how people telling stories about the product or the service was actually more successful than the product itself, or a story about the product or whatever. So like a owner saying like, this is why I started this company. Or even if you think about it now, how popular influencers and creators are, it's because of their authentic storytelling and them talking about their experience with a product, a business, a service, or whatever, right? So that is those are the two things. Look out there, see what's going on, learn from what other people are doing, and tell your authentic story.
You know, it's funny. Before I started this, I would have thought like storytelling is like for kids. You know, I would know about it, but I sincerely, months ago when I started, I had no clue how important storytelling is. I never would have thought that that's an essential. Like we talk about networking, we talk about like get your MBA to know accounting and finance. Who talks about storytelling at school?
Yes.
Like I've never heard about that. Maybe I was in a different space, but I realized just how important it is because that's the way you connect with people. And business is really about connecting people so that they trust you to a certain degree to opt into whatever you want them to opt into, right? In a fair degree. But it's about trust. And storytelling is such a ancient way for humans to build trust, to connect with another. And the other part about authenticity, it took me time, I think, just like everybody. And that gives me hopes. If you look at your favorite person, individual, public figure, if you feel like, hey, they're coming up so authentically, how amazing, how could I ever be that person? Look at their very initial post, the earliest you can find, and just see how does it differ. And I just want everybody to have hope that it takes time to be authentic, not because you change who you are, because you gain confidence in showing yourself authentically. And then you also learn how to do it. Like we can all talk authentically, but sometimes you have to be like, oh, how do I get that hook? Like, what is the most important part of my little short? Like, how do I catch somebody? How do I share something? Because I'm a little long-winded. So I'm like, okay, how do I say this more concisely? Right? You can be authentic, but you're going to polish the presentation of that. So again, your audience gets the best version of your authentic self.
Oh, I love that. And I think that's so true. And it's so real because there's the craft, right? And I think that's where then me as a professional in the creative space comes in, because I can help copyright, I can help, brand things, give you the hook, all of that. Like, and that's where those things kind of come together. And I think that's honestly where the value I can bring to organizations, especially to like DEI leaders and HR leaders and people leaders around like, look, you want people to take this training. You want people to, behave differently in the workplace, but you can't just say, this is what you need to do. You need to tell them a story. And I'll tell you, the biggest learning for me is so funny that you brought it up about it being children. Having spent so much time with my kids the past few months, which is such a blessing, I'm seeing 99% stories are everything. I try to explain everything to my kid. Yesterday, he was like, what is fiber? And I'm like, sir, why are you asking me this, Mr. 5-year-old? Like, this does not matter to your life right now. However, let's see.
Right.
And I went and I actually looked up proper definitions of fiber. And then I came back to him with a story around eating and food and the different things food does in your body. And then how fiber is a part of that. So seeing how I'm able to explain literally everything now to my 5-year-old through a story, I'm like, this is the future. And this is the thing that I think a lot of people have been missing or misunderstanding.
Oh, and I want to dive into your parts and what's coming ahead. But just one last question I have is, what advice would you give people who feel overwhelmed? Like they go out and like everything is oversaturated. Like yes, I understand stories is important, but then like I go out there and everybody's telling their story. How do you gain confidence in even starting to tell your story when you feel like it's, just so much noise is already out there? How is my story ever going to stand out?
That is a really good question. And I don't have an answer that I think is going to make you feel good.
Go for it. Love it.
I feel like sometimes people are like, well, step one is step two. Honestly, it's just go for it.
Yeah.
You will find your people and your people will find you.
Beautiful.
You and I found each other, right?
Yes.
Through storytelling, through sharing, through speaking. You know what I mean? So I think that just keep doing it. Keep doing it, keep refining, keep talking, keep knowing who you are and what you want to say and why you want to say it. I find that people who are just like talking for the sake of talking and not trying to help others, not trying to build others, not trying to add anything to other people, then like folks will stop listening. Even if it's funny, even if it's whatever, right? People will stop listening. So I think it's important that you just know yourself and know that you're trying to help. As long as that's your intention, then you'll be fine. Keep going, keep doing it. You will find your people and your people will find you.
Beautiful. I completely agree. The why is so important. And also you discover so much about yourself. You know, what's funny, this year I'm doing a couple of talks, which I'm really grateful for. And a couple months ago when I was met, could have never dreamed of doing that. And I was thinking, well, I haven't had, formal public speaking or anything like that, but here I am interviewing people every single day, pretty much.
Yes.
And then I'm watching myself talk every single day. So if you were ever to do public speaking training, and I've done like a little bit of courses, but not like super professional, that's what you're asked to do is like watch yourself, record yourself. And I dreaded that. And now I have to do it all the time. And it's super duper helpful. So yes, find your why because it'll keep you going even when things suck. Even when you're starting out and you don't have a million followers who are like, oh, I love your idea. It's so brilliant.
Yeah.
but you own that and you get that. And every time you do it, you find confidence in yourself. Like that's the inner journey of it all. It's not even just what you put out there. Like, hey, you know what? I have something to say. And you know what?
Too.
I can say it. That's kind of cool.
Yes. Yeah. And it helps other people feel like, oh, you know what? If she can talk about that, I can talk about this. Or just even the idea of not feeling so alone. I think that I went through a large part of my career and my life feeling like I need to have my shit together.
Yeah.
And I need other people to feel like I have my shit together.
Mm.
And once I recognized it, like, girl, you will never have your shit together. And came to terms with that, it actually helped me be a better leader, a better manager, a better friend, everything, because I lowered the expectation of perfection and opened a space for conversation, for growth, for development. And that was so beautiful. So even now, when I tell people about like my layoff post, for instance, like I feel like I was very honest and vulnerable in that about, hey, this is not necessarily what I wanted, but this is what's happening. And I need to focus on my family right now. And that's what I'm going to do. And I had multiple people reach out to me after that were like, okay, well, let's talk about working together. And I was like, oh, I can't do that right now. And it was so weird. And like, there were times where I was like, oh my God, am I like burning these bridges? Am I like not being strategic or whatever? But I genuinely did not have the bandwidth to entertain conversations about work and career and any of that stuff. My family needed all of my attention. And there were situations where I dropped the ball. And there was a woman in particular I was speaking to in July that I saw in November. And then I saw her, I was like, I'm sorry I never got back to you. I really needed to help my son transition into kindergarten and figure out his IEP. And that's all I really said. And she like held me and was like, girl, I have been there. I know how hard that is. And you have to give your all to advocate for your child. And like tears. Because I was just like, yes, that's what this was for me. And I felt like such a failure not being able to do everything and balance everything. And the more honest I was about, y'all, I can't do everything. I can't balance everything. I need to give this 100% of my attention. The more people were like, yep, feel you, love you, call me when you're ready. Here's some resources. Here's some advice. Go do that. Such a gift.
It's so beautiful. It's so underestimated when you start leaning into authentically, like, you know what? I'm just going to say it because this is how it is. I found that with the podcast, I stopped scheduling as many podcasts because just like it's hard on me to do so much and try to balance as a one woman show. So I started reaching out to people and just like, hey, just for mental health, I am going to move your podcast out a little bit. And it was so hard. I'm saying nothing compared to like, child struggles, but it was something I dread because as a professional, like I'm on it. I'm going to honor my commitment. Oh gosh, I'm going to schedule. And everybody was so understanding.
Yes.
Because like, you prioritizing mental health and like, you putting it out there, just saying like, that's just how it is. I can't juggle it all. It's hard. And people are very understanding. So I encourage, like, although it's really scary to start sharing the authenticity, because a lot of people will surprise you in how they react.
That is it. A lot of people will surprise you. And what I recognize is the people who are not going to create space for you to be your authentic self are not the people you need to be around. Right.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that you need to go to work and be like, oh my God, I'm a mess. Help me. Like I can't do this. No, right? It's if you need a little extra time, ask for a little extra time. I would rather know that the reason why you did not deliver a quality product to me is because you were dealing with a death in the family or because you were unwell and you need extra time, than for me to think that you just have such low standards and you do low quality work.
Absolutely.
So be honest, right? But I think that like as a woman, as a Black person, and as an immigrant, it is very hard for me to say that I can't do something. It's very hard for me to say no. It's very hard for me to even sit with some of the realities of my current situation, right? And so there's always this feeling of like, I need to do more, I need to do better, I need to whatever. And I think that the biggest lesson of 2023 for me was, no, girl, you don't have to be on it all the time. You don't have to be perfect all the time. And you don't have to know the answer all the time.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you don't get the opportunities because of that. It's okay. Like those things were not for you then.
Yeah.
Those people were not for you. This time was not your time. And I think I'm walking into this new year feeling very firm in that and very comfortable in that and very secure in who I am and what I have to offer and what I can do, but also very aware and realistic in all of that as well, which is
beautiful.
a gift again.
Absolutely. One thing that comes to mind, my dad likes to say that if something is truly yours, it will happen to you. If not, it was never yours. And that's just a little random combination. But one thing that I also remember when we first connected, what surprised me is how you were like, hey, I know I have a lot to offer. Like here you are, gently sharing your layoff post, coming from this company. She's like, I feel like I have a lot to offer. Like I'm going to do something. And here you are like authentically sharing your challenges, your journey, really leaning into that authenticity. And I would love to now dive into like, what did these 6 months, this reflection like lead you to? What are you doing now? Which I'm really excited to hear about.
Again, I've been thinking about how can I help people, right? How can I help that DEI or HR leader who is like, I need to shift things in my organization and I don't know how. Or, these strategies are the right strategies, but they're not landing. These programs are the right programs where people aren't excited and engaged. Like, let me help you with that because I've been there, I've done that, and I can do it. For the creative leaders who were just like, I don't understand my team. I don't understand this target market. I don't understand I don't understand these platforms. I can help you with that, right? And then for the people in between, especially for the younger people who were just like, this corporate space is not safe. And I don't feel like I can be myself. I don't feel like I can be successful. I don't know how to navigate this. I really want to help those people to be the future leaders and honestly change the way that things are so that they can be better for more people. And that's my focus right now. Honestly, is like, call it coaching, call it consulting, calling whatever. Like if you need help, if you need clarity, if you need creativity, if you need just some understanding of inclusion and social media and culture and all of that, I can help.
I love that. And I can tell for your whole story, and I hope everybody listening just hears your authenticity and just like the diverse sets of skill sets, we use that word again, that you have to offer. It's just a good word for it. And can you share like what are some of the resources that will be provided? Like I think you're saying the consultancies going to be giving birth here really soon. And then you had, thank you, some baby food. This is baby
for
food?
creatives. Yeah,
Baby food
baby
creative.
food for
What is
creatives.
that?
So I started this blog back in 2011, and it really was to help young creatives coming into the industry who had little to no guidance. Again, I came in and I was like, what is going on here? Who are these people? And I had to learn the hard way. And I thought, this doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
So I had this blog for about 5 or 6 years that I was doing pretty consistently. I was speaking, I was mentoring, I was doing all this stuff to really help these groups. I ended up, for multiple reasons, tabling it for a little bit, and I'm bringing it back now, and I'm focusing on mentorship because I think a lot of companies don't have the systems or the people in place to support multicultural young creatives, young executives, young people in general. And I can help you, right? And I want to breathe life and energy and love and light into these people in these spaces. I want them to know that they are valuable, they have value that they can add, they have great ideas, and they don't have to take a lot of the bullshit that I think corporate culture makes you feel like you have to because you're a young person, or that you feel like you have to because you are a person from an underrepresented group or an immigrant or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of stuff that you feel that if I don't go along with this and do this way, then I lose everything.
Right.
And that's not the case. So I really want to support this particular group of people to help them be more secure, more smart and strategic about navigating their career.
That's so beautiful. I think there's so many people who fall in that bracket. And what's funny is that when I reached out to you, I remember distinctly you recalled a bunch of your previous teammates, like people that you reported up to you who were doing incredible things. And I love that because here you're their former manager and you're looking out for them, promoting them, cheering on for them. And I'm not saying that to be, mean, but that's not always the case. Like sometimes people like leave their job and like, okay, like these were my employees, but like there's kind of the relationship drifts. And I've seen that happen a lot. So I love that here you are as a testament of somebody who's mentoring and that you're not just doing it because that's your role. That's generally in your bones. And so for anybody who's looking for that mentor, like I just want to relay that because I thought that was really special. That even though you were not technically a manager for those people anymore, you cared so deeply about their growth and seeing them shine. And you were so proud of their achievements. And I thought that was beautiful.
I mean, it's a community, right? And I think that we need to lift each other up. We need to support each other. We need to connect each other. There are a lot of conversations that are happening with certain groups of people on golf courses that I'm never going to play golf, right? So I'm already missing out on that. But I want to make up for that. I want to make up for that. So whenever and however I can, call other people's names in rooms that they're not in and support other people, I'm going to do that, right?
Yeah. Love it.
The table, there's that saying about how if there's no room at the table, bring another chair. I'm building multiple tables.
Yeah.
I'm not, you know what I mean? Like my whole mindset is that there is enough success for all of us. There's enough space. There's enough progress. It's all of that. There's enough of it for all of us. So there's no need for us to be fighting against each other or putting other people down. When I rise, I'm bringing everybody with me.
Absolutely. When the tide rises, all ships float, or something like that. So that reminds me of Neisha. I want to be also respectful of the time. Is there anything that we missed before we wrap up?
Anything that we missed before you wrap up? Visions.
Let's talk about it.
Yes. Let's talk about visions. So I feel very strongly about this. I have never done a New Year's resolution. I refuse to. Not my vibe. However, when I started at Meta, I don't know if you remember when Carolyn Everson used to have like vision writing day.
I don't remember distinctly, so tell me more.
Well, because I was part of the sales org, and so that was like a big thing. There was a vision writing day. And I remember being like, y'all are wild. This is ridiculous. I've got things to do, and I'm not going to sit here and write a vision with my colleagues. Then one of my coworkers created a visual vision writing workbook that then sparked everything in me because I'm like, oh, I'm a creative and I need to see this creatively. So I did my first vision in 2018. And every year since I've done a vision, And 2019 into 2020 I always talk about that because 2020 did not turn out the way anybody wanted. However, I achieved almost everything I had on my vision that year.
Huh.
So there's something to the process of actually writing things down, but there was something even greater about the way that it's done, using the creative process, using brainstorming, researching, editing, and really coming to fine tune and craft things, giving yourself a hook, giving yourself a tagline, giving yourself visual reminders, and all of that. That I've been able to put together a workshop that I've seen other people now say, wow, yeah, 2023 did not go how I wanted, but I achieved the things that I wanted to achieve. Thinking about how do you live and work in a value-led way? How do you focus on your purpose? How do you not just think about what do I want to do, but who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? And then using those to create an action plan. I've seen change. I've seen change, not just for myself, but for other people. I've done this workshop now for a couple hundred people. And this year is going to be the first time that I offer it now to just kind of anybody who wants to do it. And then
I want to
offer
do
some
it.
structured support after. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about being able to help other people think about who they are, who they want to be, and how they want to be purpose-led in this new year, and help them accomplish that.
Ooh, I love it. I love that because
I'll
goals
share
can be
some
overwhelming.
information.
Yes,
Sorry?
yes, please. So goals can be overwhelming and boring and just frustrating. So I love that there's a fresh approach to this. So please share that information. I will be sure to share it on the description for everybody listening. And then one question before we wrap up, I promise. One thing that inspires me is your just energy. Like you have this calm confidence and this, positivity. What helps you derive that? Because I know you have, like you mentioned, a lot of challenges that are happening of kids and life and figuring yourself out. Like here you are after a layoff, but you have this like vibrance about you. What helps you have that, if you don't mind me asking?
Um, I believe in myself. I believe in my skills. Like I know I'm good at my job. I'm good at, like, it sounds cocky, but like I feel like I can go to any organization and be great and do great things. So I don't have to worry about the competence part of it at all. I think that, and I know I can figure out anything. Working at Meta was very much trial by fire all the time. And throughout my career, I worked on Kodak, and I had never had a digital camera in my life. I worked on Faye yogurt, and I was vegan. Like there's so many things that I've done where I figured it out, right? You know what I mean? And I found a way to connect to what mattered to people, what mattered to me, and to be successful. So I know that I can get through anything. But I think the other side of that is I genuinely want other people to feel good about themselves, right? I think about, like, I can choose to be kind. I can choose to be helpful. I can choose to bring light into a room, or I could not.
Right.
And so that's the choice I always make. Like, how do I add to the situation? How do I add to the room? How do I bring oxygen and not take it away? And I think maybe that's some of what you're seeing.
That's beautiful. I think there's a cycle, right? That maybe the confidence, energy you have in yourself comes from bringing positivity to others, right? It reinforces that ability to be resilient because you look at things in a positive, I can do, how can I make it work? Versus like, oh, this is happening to me. This is a negative situation. So I love that. It's a beautiful way to wrap this up. Neisha, you were delightful. I appreciate you bringing your energy, sharing your learnings on so many different topics, right? On diversity, on ads, on being creative, on storytelling, on yourself and having energy and positivity and care for others. So here at Right Off Track, we wrap up with 3 rapid fire questions. So whenever you're ready, let's start.
Let me drink a water and then I'm ready. What's the question?
Okay. Oh, you want the question? Okay. The first question is the worst piece of advice you've ever heard.
Just put your head down and keep working.
Okay. What is one piece of advice to become a better storyteller?
Wow, one piece of advice to become a better Ask yourself what people want to hear.
That's beautiful. I love that. Okay, last but not least, in the positive context, going off track is?
In the positive context, going off track is liberating.
Beautiful.
I'm not going to say anything else about it. I want people to just sit with that.
You use the pauses so powerfully. So that's a perfect way to wrap up. Neisha, you've been delightful. Thank you for sharing your energy. I'm so glad we made this happen. And to all of our listeners, thank you for joining us. Make this your year. Utilize all the resources. Embrace your authenticity. I'd love to hear what stood out to you from this episode. Share it with a friend who maybe needs a piece of wisdom or advice on one of these topics. And as always, let's take over the world together. Right off track. Neisha, thank you so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you, Anya. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.